try. I'll get you, my pretty, and your little dog, too.
The Wizard of Oz might look like a magical adventure, but behind the scenes, it was anything but. A costume so toxic it sent an actor to the hospital, a fiery accident that left someone permanently scarred, and a young star forced into a life of cigarettes and pills just to keep filming. But that's just scratching the surface. What really happened behind the curtain of this Hollywood classic will shock you. From life-threatening accidents to devastating lifelong consequences, this is the true, dark story of the Wizard of Oz.
Bring me the broomstick of the Witch of the West.
The Wizard of Oz has captivated audiences for over 80 years, and it's one of the most iconic movies ever made. But if you've somehow been living under a rock and have never heard of it, don't worry, I've got you covered. The film follows Dorothy Gale, a young girl from Kansas who's swept away by a tornado to the magical land of Oz. With her loyal dog Toto, she embarks on a journey to find the Wizard of Oz, who she believes can help her get back home. Along the way, she meets some unforgettable companions, the Scarecrow who wants a brain, the Tin Man who longs for a heart, and the Cowardly Lion who's in desperate need of courage. Together, they face challenges, including the Wicked Witch of the West and her flying monkeys, all while following the iconic yellow brick road. It's a tale of friendship, bravery, and discovering the power within yourself wrapped in a world of dazzling technicolor. But while Oz might look like a dreamland, what happened behind the scenes was far from magical. How the movie came to life and the sacrifices made to create it are where the real story begins.
It's empty. The tinsmith forgot to give me a heart.
No heart?
As we delve deeper into the making of The Wizard of Oz, it's essential to understand the casting choices that shaped the film and the harrowing experiences that followed. Originally, Ray Bolger was cast as the Tin Man, and Christian Rudolph Ebsen, also known as Buddy Ebsen, was set to play the Scarecrow. However, Ray Bolger was a lifelong fan of the Oz stories, and he felt a deep connection to the Scarecrow role. He admired Fred Stone's portrayal of the character in the 1902 stage adaptation and believed his own dance style was better suited for the Scarecrow's fluid movements. After discussions with the studio and Buddy Ebsen, the two actors agreed to swap roles, allowing Ray Bolger to embody the character he so passionately desired, and Buddy Ebsen even embraced his new role as the Tin Man with enthusiasm. However, the production's ambitious special effects and makeup techniques soon led to unforeseen consequences. To achieve the Tin Man's metallic appearance, the makeup department devised a novel approach, coating Buddy Ebsen's face and body with aluminum dust, but this decision would prove disastrous. Within days of filming, Buddy started experiencing severe respiratory issues. The fine aluminum particles infiltrated his lungs, causing him immense pain and difficulty breathing. In his own words, Buddy recalled, "It felt like my lungs were coated with cement," but despite his worsening condition, the studio's primary concern remained the film's schedule.
How did he become the Tin Man?
He was a contract player for MGM. He came out from New York. The movie came into the studio and they were assigned their parts. But then he went into production. Of course, the makeup, he got tremendously ill from inhaling the toxic aluminum powder over a 2-week period.
Buddy was hospitalized, spending weeks in an oxygen tent as doctors fought to save his life. The diagnosis was clear: acute poisoning from the aluminum dust, but the studio showed little empathy. Their focus was on the film, not the well-being of their actors. Without informing the public of the real reason, MGM quietly replaced Buddy Ebsen with Jack Haley, the Tin Man we all know and love today. Determined to avoid a repeat of the health crisis, the makeup artists altered their formula. They mixed the aluminum into a paste rather than a powder. Unfortunately, this change offered little improvement. The paste caused Haley to develop a severe eye infection, leading to a brief hospitalization. The relentless pursuit of cinematic perfection came at a significant human cost, as Ebsen's career was derailed and he continued suffering from respiratory problems for the rest of his life. And Jack Haley, though spared the worst, also endured his own set of challenges due to the toxic makeup. It's also worth noting that had the original casting remained unchanged, Ebsen might have avoided this tragedy. However, the role swap, driven by Ray Bolger's passion for the Scarecrow, set these events into motion. Ray Bolger's dedication to the character was profound, but it also led to unforeseen consequences for his co-star.
What would you do with a brain if you had one?
Do? Why, if I had a brain, I could
while away the hours, conferring with the flowers, consulting with the rain.
While Buddy Ebsen endured severe hardships due to his role as the Tin Man, Ray Bolger, who took on the role of the Scarecrow, faced his own set of challenges that left lasting marks, both physically and emotionally. In the late 1930s, prosthetic makeup was still in its infancy. The materials and techniques available were rudimentary compared to today's standards. Foam latex, a significant advancement, had only recently been introduced. Makeup artists were pioneering uncharted territory, often relying on trial and error to achieve the desired on-screen effects. For Ray's transformation into the Scarecrow, the makeup department crafted a mask from thin foam rubber designed to emulate the burlap texture of a scarecrow's face. This mask was glued directly onto Bulger's skin, adhering closely to his facial contours to allow for expressive movement. Each day on set began with the process of applying the mask, which took several hours. However, the real ordeal began after the cameras stopped rolling. Removing the mask was a painstaking process. The strong adhesives used to keep the prosthetic in place had to be carefully dissolved and peeled away to avoid damaging Ray's skin. Ray himself noted, "I had a rubber mask. It sort of closed the pores in my face, and when the lights got real hot and ate up all the oxygen, I couldn't breathe." The intense studio lights exacerbated the situation. Early Technicolor filming required exceptionally bright illumination, causing actors to sweat profusely under the heavy makeup and costumes. For Ray Bolger, the combination of heat, restricted skin breathing due to the latex mask, and the physical demands of his performance led to considerable discomfort. The consequences of this grueling routine were long-lasting, and even after filming concluded, he was left with a pattern of lines on his face resembling that of his Scarecrow makeup. If you thought the stories of Buddy Ebsen and Ray Bolger were horrifying, Judy Garland's experience might just leave you speechless. Judy was just 16 years old when MGM cast her as Dorothy Gale, a role that would catapult her into superstardom but at a devastating cost. Let's rewind for a moment. After Disney's Snow White became a massive success, MGM wanted their own fairy tale adaptation to dominate the box office. They purchased the rights to L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and began hunting for the perfect Dorothy. Shirley Temple was their first choice, already a box office darling and practically synonymous with wholesome family entertainment. But there was one glaring issue. Shirley's vocal range wasn't strong enough to handle Dorothy's iconic songs, especially Over the Rainbow.
You know that song, don't you?
Sure I do.
Well, then sing it. Come on, Shirley, sing it.
I've thrown away my toys, even my drum and train.
Now enter Judy Garland. At the time, Judy was a rising star at MGM, known for her powerful singing voice and raw talent. She wasn't the studio's ideal age. She was 16, while Dorothy in the book was much younger, but she was the best option, and from the moment she signed on, the studio began reshaping her, literally. To make her appear younger, MGM put her on a brutal regimen. They demanded she lose 12 pounds, even though she was already slim, and once she hit that target, it still wasn't enough. Executives referred to her as a fat little pig with pigtails behind her back, completely shattering her confidence. They strapped her chest down with bindings to make her appear less developed and forced her into a corset so tight, Judy herself described it as feeling like iron. But the physical transformation was just the beginning. MGM placed her on a strict diet that was more like starvation. She was given soup, coffee, and little else, and when hunger struck, they handed her appetite-suppressant pills. The studio also forced her to smoke up to 80 cigarettes a day to keep her weight down, and when that wasn't enough, they introduced her to a dangerous cocktail of pills, uppers to keep her energized for long days on set, and downers to force her into sleep at night. Despite all of this, Judy gave an unforgettable performance, but the pressure didn't stop at physical transformations. She endured emotional abuse too. One of the most infamous incidents occurred during the Cowardly Lion scene. Judy couldn't stop giggling during a take. She was, after all, still a teenager. The director, Victor Fleming, stormed onto the set and slapped her across the face to set her straight. Afterward, he reportedly told her to get back to work.
Shame on you. It's bad enough picking on a straw man, but when you go around picking on poor little dogs.
Well, you didn't have to go and hit me, did you?
Bert Lahr, who brought the Cowardly Lion to life, faced his own set of grueling trials. To achieve the lifelike appearance of the Cowardly Lion, the costume designers opted for authenticity, constructing Bert's suit from real lion skin. This decision, while enhancing the visual realism, introduced a host of complications. The costume was incredibly heavy, with some reports indicating it weighed around 90 pounds. and it covered Bert's entire body, leaving minimal room for ventilation. Lights added to the discomfort. These lights emitted intense heat, often pushing on-set temperatures to over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Throughout the day, Bert would sweat heavily, causing the lion suit to become thoroughly soaked, and by the end of filming each day, the costume was drenched and needing overnight drying. A dedicated individual was even assigned the task of drying the suit, yet it rarely dried completely by the following morning, and Bert was forced to wear a damp, musty costume day after day, enduring the unpleasant odors and potential health risks associated with prolonged exposure to such conditions. The facial prosthetics presented additional challenges. Once they were applied, they restricted Bert's ability to eat solid food, confining him to meals consumed through a straw. This limitation persisted until he reached the limits of his patience and insisted that his makeup be removed during lunch breaks to allow him to eat properly.
Oh, scared, huh? Afraid, huh? How long can it stay fresh in that can?
Margaret Hamilton's portrayal of the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz is iconic, but the role came with harrowing experiences that nearly cost her life. Transforming into the Wicked Witch required Margaret to endure a lengthy makeup process. The green makeup was copper-based and highly toxic, needing careful application to prevent ingestion or absorption. Once applied, Margaret was on a strict liquid diet, as consuming solid food risked ingesting the harmful substances. On December 23, 1938, while filming the scene where the Wicked Witch exits Munchkinland in a blaze of fire and smoke, a critical malfunction occurred. The effect was timed too early and caused the flames to erupt before Margaret Hamilton descended safely through a trapdoor. As a result, she suffered first-degree burns on her face and second-degree burns on her right hand.
It was an accident. I didn't mean to kill anybody.
Well, my little pretty, I can cause accidents too.
The immediate concern after the accident was the removal of the toxic green makeup to prevent further skin damage. Usually at the end of shooting, they would use acetone to dissolve the makeup, but this time they used alcohol for antiseptic purposes, which was very painful over her fresh burns. She later recounted the intense pain of this experience, describing it as unforgettable. And even despite the severity of her injuries, MGM's response was notably indifferent. She was hospitalized for 6 weeks, during which the studio didn't offer her compensation or assistance. She understood the precarious nature of Hollywood employment, so she chose not to sue them, because she was scared that they'll blacklist her and end her career. After Margaret's return to set, she refused to perform a dangerous flying broomstick stunt for the surrendered Dorothy skywriting scene. Betty Danko, her stunt double, was assigned the task. The stunt involved sitting on a smoking pipe designed to look like a broomstick, coated with asbestos for fire resistance. During filming, the pipe exploded, causing Betty severe injuries, including a 2-inch deep wound on her leg. The production's safety issues even extended beyond Margaret Hamilton and Betty Danko's experiences. In another mishap, the actors playing the Wicked Witch's flying monkeys were suspended by piano wires for a scene. The wires snapped, causing the actors to fall and sustain injuries.
Take special care of those ruby zippers. I want those most of all. Now fly! Fly!
The chaos with the flying monkeys wasn't the only dangerous thing tied to their scenes. Right before the flying monkeys attack, we have that iconic moment in the poppy field where the Wicked Witch uses the enchanted flowers to put Dorothy and her friends to sleep. But the real danger wasn't in the story, it was on the set. For that dreamy snow falling over the poppy field, the crew used chrysotile asbestos, a material that was often used as fake snow in Hollywood back then. It might have looked magical, but prolonged exposure can lead to serious health problems like asbestosis and mesothelioma, deadly diseases caused by breathing in asbestos fibers. And here, the actors weren't just near it, they were covered in it, lying down and breathing it in. Asbestos wasn't limited to just the poppy field either. The crew thought it was such a versatile material that they also used it in other props. Margaret Hamilton's broom, for example, was coated in asbestos to make it fireproof for all those fiery Wicked Witch scenes. The Scarecrow costume worn by Ray Bolger was filled with asbestos for the same reason. Imagine wearing that for hours under those blazing lights, inhaling those fibers with every breath. Looking back, it's shocking to see how casually this dangerous material was used not just in The Wizard of Oz but across Hollywood during that era. No one fully understood the risks at the time, and it wasn't until years later that the devastating effects of asbestos exposure became widely known.
It's snowing! No, it isn't. Yes, it is!
We've talked about the struggles of the main actors, but what about the Munchkin actors? Unfortunately, their experience wasn't much better, starting with their pay. While Judy Garland as the lead earned more than the Munchkin actors, their salaries were shockingly low compared to the rest of the cast. They made just $50 a week, even less than Toto the dog, who earned $125 a week. And their challenges didn't end with their paychecks. Over 100 Munchkin actors were crammed into a single hotel during filming, and reports surfaced of wild parties, heavy drinking, and troubling incidents of misconduct. Most disturbingly, Judy Garland later revealed that some Munchkin actors harassed her, attempting to put their hands under her skirt. Judy was just a teenager at the time, making these allegations even more shocking.